Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Minnesota Sports Fan Show. It's been a little while, but here we are. We're back. I'm Eric Strack, uh, owner, creator, editor at MinnesotaSportsFan.com, and this is my little brother Caleb, superstar baseball player Caleb.
Yeah.
And what do we have today, Caleb? We got Twins sale, Twins trade deadline, some Viking stuff. I don't know what else we got.
Yeah, major stuff. Like you said, Twins trade deadline after some press conferences at All-Star weekend. We're going to talk a little Pablo Lopez injury, maybe touch on Twins draft, Gophers football.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What do you want
And
to start with?
lastly, Jordan Addison trial,
Oh yeah,
which we got a little heated about in our pregame.
that's I even put it. I even
Pregame
put it in
talk.
I even put it in the headline. I put Florio fishing question mark.
Yeah. Okay. So, where do you want to start? You want to start Twins? You want to
Sure.
start?
Let's start
Sure.
Twins.
Okay. Let's go trade deadline. Joe Ryan wouldn't mind getting traded.
Yes.
That's basically one of the biggest headlines coming out of All Star Weekend is that Joe Ryan says he wouldn't mind being traded, that he likes to play for the Twins, but that the rumors are fun for him. So we'll start there. What's your take on the Joe Ryan comment?
Well, should we listen to the Joe Ryan comments before we?
Sure. I
Hold
don't
on,
want to. I don't want to put words in his mouth or take anything out of context.
if I
So
can find it. I should have just pulled it up
see,
on the
this is what
website.
always happens.
How,
This is it right here,
This
folks.
is you're blaming this on me. I blame it on Twitter because when I search Joe Ryan, that should be like the first thing that pops up, and
Click
it's not.
search Joe Ryan, then videos
Well,
should be should be in it.
that's what I did. It was taking forever, so we'll just go to the website because that has
Oh
it too.
yeah, or I could do
I
that
got it.
too.
I
I
got it.
should
Here
have
we
had
go.
that.
Hold on. Let me. Oh, and there we are. Okay, here we go. We've got Joe.
Identified. That's a compliment. I would imagine. Or is that been you're weird getting used to?
The trade stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun for me. I mean, July is awesome. I think everyone in the clubhouse gets excited just seeing where guys are going to go around the league, and you don't know, and I think that's exciting. And being someone that could get traded, it would be exciting. I mean, I do love Minnesota, and I love where I'm at, so it would be sad, definitely hard to go, but at the end of the day, it's never up to me, and yeah.
All right. So that was Joe Ryan essentially saying that while it's not up to him, he definitely wouldn't be mad if he got traded. That, like you said, he finds the whole thing fun, exciting, and it's also worth noting, and Ted put this in the article, which is trending right now on MinnesotaSportsFan.com, that it was a Boston Red Sox reporter who was asking him that question, and it's worth noting that Boston was one of the main teams that supposedly has interest in trading for Joe Ryan. So obviously there are rumors all over. I'd imagine LA teams, the Mets. Well, actually, the Mets are bad this year, aren't they? The Yankees, and that they want Joe Ryan. That Joe Ryan is one of the top starting pitcher trade candidates, and it makes sense because, I mean, the guy's got what, a 2.67 ERA. But what's even more impressive than his ERA are his ridiculous whip numbers, which is like
Point
I think
nine one.
.91, and for a while they were like .87,
Yeah.
which for
Two
those,
seven two ERA .91.
if you're not a
with a 9
baseball
and 4 record.
person, that's walks and hits per innings pitched. So essentially, Joe Ryan is giving up less than one hit plus walks per inning pitched. So guys are just not getting on base against him, which helps his ERA because he does give up home runs quite often when he does give up hits. But when there's nobody ever on base, one run home runs never really killed anybody. So the latest that I've kind of read on this and that we have at MSF just posted today, it sounds like behind the scenes Twins are trying to calm some of these trade rumors. Dan Hayes wrote in The Athletic today that he he sees it unlikely that if the Twins end up being buyers, that they will make any blockbuster or real splash moves outside of some additions kind of on the edges. And same thing that if they decide to sell, we're not going to see them sell the farm. That the fact they are selling the team makes them even less likely that they're going to really sell big at the trade deadline, because they're not going to want to get rid of some of their best players right before, new ownership takes over.
This is part of what Aaron Gleeman and Barrera were just talking about.
I was listening to that too. I was
okay,
bring
fine.
that up.
Yeah. So I mean, they were having the exact conversation. I guess it's just like, do you want to wave the white flag again and sell? So be a light sell or a light buy. Either way they do it, and that Joe Ryan's probably not going to be part of that unless they were vastly over, to get blown away by somebody. And then, I mean, the other major Twin that we'd want to get in on this conversation is Buxton, who said that he's going to be a Twin for life and that he doesn't have to worry about it because he has a no trade clause.
Yeah, and I mean, I love what Buxton said, and because I had so many issues pulling up the Ryan clip, I'm not going to pull up the Buxton clip too. But essentially that he's a Twin for life, and that his no trade clause means that he has final say on any deal, and he made it pretty darn clear in that answer that any deal that comes his way is going to go out the window, which doesn't surprise me. I've seen a lot of people talk, especially from other teams, oh, we've heard that before. Players say all the time that they're not going to leave, and then they waive the no trade anyways. Buck is different. The reason why he was waiting for the no trade clause, the reason why he wanted control of the situation, was not because he wanted control of where he wanted to end up if he were to get traded. It was because he just doesn't want to be traded at all. He's a family guy. He's, grown roots in Minnesota during baseball season, and that's where his family wants to be right now. It's obviously it's very much in their family routine every single year that we go to Minnesota. We spend the summer months, the baseball season months in Minnesota. Once winter hits, once October, November, whenever they end up being out of it, which is usually September, to be honest, then they pack up and they go down to Georgia and they spend the winter months in Georgia. And I know it kind of sounds crazy, especially for a large amount of people who are on the internet, ages 25 and under, to be like, why would you give up all this money? Why would you give up a chance at winning a World Series when Minnesota hasn't shown a willingness to invest in the team? And, history tells us that in all likelihood, he's not going to win a World Series in Minnesota. What they don't see is once you have kids, once they start in school, which his kids are now school age, it becomes infinitely more difficult to move your family, because now not only do you have to find a new school, and sure, his wife will take care of that. He's got money, can pay people to find him a house, to find a good school, and whatever school he ends up going to, his kids are going to get plenty good of an education because, I mean, he can pay for it, right? So even if they end up in some shitty city where the public school system sucks, they can pay for him to go to private school, get a great education. But when you're a parent, that matters. But what matters just as much is the relationships that your kids have built at the school that they're at. I mean, I can speak to that better than any other parent can. The reason why I live in Illinois and it concerns me thinking about moving back to Minnesota eventually is that my son now is in first grade and developing relationships. My daughter is going into high school, and pulling them away from that and dropping them into a brand new environment where now they have to find new friends with a bunch of kids that may be nice, may not be nice. They're settled now. You don't want to put your kids in that sort of situation. And for Buxton, he's going to get paid the same amount of money. His career outside of maybe championships is not going to change that much, whether he's in Minnesota or if he ends up in, New York or wherever, where if he were to slide, by the way, in somewhere like New York, his career could go bad way faster than it would ever here in Minnesota. But that stuff is all going to be the same. His career is going to mostly be the same. It's the everything else going on in a human's life where you have to pick up and move. Buxton's been here since, I mean, he's been up with the Twins since 2014. That means he's been in Minnesota for over 10 years. Like
Right.
that, to me, that with Buxton, it is definitely different. Now, as I said on Twitter one time, if the Twins were to come in to Buxton and say, hey, we are tearing it all down. Like, we're trading Joe Ryan tomorrow. As soon as Pablo Lopez gets healthy, he's gone too, if not at the deadline this offseason. Like Royce Lewis, bye. Like Carlos Correa, bye. And they came to Buxton with that and said, you know, would you be willing to, you know, waive your no trade?
Clause? Yeah, then he probably would.
If we allow you to kind of pick where you want to go,
Well,
now that's a completely different conversation. But then it gets back to what positives would that do? Like, what good would that do for the Minnesota Twins when they're trying to sell a team and the new owner doesn't want to come in and have to completely rebuild from the ground up? Like, the Twins aren't great right now, but they have a core and a minor league system, not necessarily the entire system, but the AAA, AA, like the talent that is going to bust through in the next couple of years. They have an organization that, from a talent standpoint, would stick out to owners as, you know, we can make the right moves in the next year or two and have a legitimate World Series contender. If you start trading away all those pieces, then you can't sell that as part of your pitch to sell the team, and that matters. And there's another part that Aaron Gleeman talked about on Barrero just like moments ago that I think matters too, but I want to let you get in on anything.
No, for sure. I mean, I agree with everything there. It's the whole conversation that they had. How good does it look as a front office? You know, is the new ownership going to come and clean house if you have sold for the last 5 years and can't, you know, give a presentation on the positive things that you've done for the organization where they could be like, yeah, we want to keep this front office. So I don't think they're going to heavy sell. Obviously, I would think it's a light either way. If they get a good deal for a bullpen arm, I think they'll do that. I could see them selling Stewart or something. They do it every year, even when we're close. We're 2 games under 500, giving away somebody and getting, you know, 2.5 prospects back. Like, I could certainly see that happening. I don't think Duran or Jax is going to go unless it's like a top prospect.
Yeah, I agree, Ed. So first off, to touch on the front office.
Yeah.
That, you read my mind. That's where I want to go next. That matters. If you think about it, the Twins have only made the play. If they miss the playoffs this year, they've missed 4 out of the last 5 years. New ownership is expected to come in this offseason. If that happens, new ownership, like, most likely they're going to want to somewhat clean house anyways. Like, that's just what happens with new ownership. They're going to have connections in baseball. They're going to have people that they know, and they're going to have people that they trust that recommend X person, and that's who they're going to want to bring in. But if Falvey leaves the Twins, and I actually heard Gleeman, shout out to Aaron Gleeman, one of the best people covering Twins baseball, covering the MLB in general, in my opinion.
You can't not include it in our discussion when he just literally
starts
dropping things like.
Yeah, exactly, and he starts dropping all of these bits. But if they're going to sell to the new ownership that you should keep us, like, we are good, and they have and this Gleeman said this on one of his Gleeman and the Geek episodes recently. They have a pretty good sales pitch to new ownership because, as he points out, Derek Falvey has had multiple opportunities to leave the Minnesota Twins for jobs that would not be demotions, but most around the league would probably consider promotions to, you know, ownership groups and teams and organizations that would be more willing to spend on their roster than what the Twins are. Like, Derek Falvey is seen as one of the, like, top executives in MLB. And if the Twins were to let him go in the next couple of years, he will find a president of baseball operations job, not a president of all things job like he has right now with the Twins after his recent promotion, but a president of baseball operations job, like, Maybe he has to take a year off because it's a bad timing in the cycle or whatever. But within 2 years, he would be back running a team that most people would probably consider a promotion compared to the Twins. So let's start there. So if he is going to go to the new owners and sell to them that they should keep them instead of him going and getting a job somewhere else, it starts with making the playoffs this year. Because then he can say, I made the playoffs in the 2 out of the last 3 years, and if ownership had not cut off my spending, we would have made it in 2024 as well. We almost made it in 2024, would have made it anyways if Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton don't start going through all those injuries.
Of the pitch is
that is
monetary constraints.
For sure, but if he does not make the playoffs this year, that's a much harder sell. If he makes the playoffs this year,
make
it's much
moves
easier
this year with all the constraints? Like, do they have money right now to go make a move?
I think that they have, because of how important, I think because of the sale being pending, not pending, like nobody knows exactly, but
close to the doorstep.
After Manfred came on the record yesterday and said,
let's hit that then.
So Manfred came, for those you don't know, Rob Manfred, commissioner of the MLB, spoke at the All-Star Game
weekend.
Media Day yesterday, and just came out and said that the Twin sale is happening and that everybody has to have patience, but he suggested that it's more imminent than not. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, then I got some ads popping up in the old read more button. You know how that works.
Oh yeah, our new read more button. I'm sure our readers love the read more button.
Yeah, it just really helps me out a lot. So Rob Manfred speaking at to the BBWAA with Baseball Writers Association or whatever. I know some things that you don't know. I can tell you with a lot of confidence that there will be a transaction there, and it will be consistent with the kind of pricing that has taken place. There will be a transaction. We just need to be patient while they rework. And that's also while adding in that the Twins were close to a sale, and then Ishbia moved out, which we've previously reported on from reports from Lavelli Neal and Charlie Walters to The Athletic as well. But that he basically then said that they had to reset after Ishbia pulled back. So
yeah, and so Manfred essentially says in there that the sale is happening. When it happens, we don't exactly know, and we don't know who it is. Charlie Walters at the Pioneer Press has reported in recent weeks that there is somebody that they are getting serious down the line with. He kind of Doogie hinted a little bit that there's, I have it in my notes actually. Let me give you the name here. Here we go. What's the date today? The 16th. Where you at? Not there either. God dang it, I want this name. Twins hasn't. Oh, here we go. Oh, Marty Davis. So while I'm talking, you look up Marty Davis and and tell us who he is and who he works for and how he has all this money.
Okay.
So there might
Cambria. We've heard this
Cambria.
before.
So Marty Davis is a Cambria guy. So
yeah,
it could be a mixture of different local rich people that end up purchasing the vast majority with a investment group purchasing like the other 40%. I could see that. But no matter, it's getting down the road, supposedly, between all the reports that we've been hearing, even if we don't know who it is or when exactly it's going to happen. It sounds imminent. So let's assume that it's going to happen this offseason. That's where Felvey needs to sell to the poll ads that he needs to be kept on. And it's easier to do that when you've made, he's had the constraints and all that.
Yeah.
Now, what will he be allowed to do this trade deadline? I think that the sale gives them more wiggle room. Because if you're the poll ads, let's say they go out and they're trying to get somebody it's a let's say $13 million contract. Yeah, it's a $13 million contract, but really it's like $5 million because
'cause
they
by the
only have to
time
pay
that-
35% of it because
Sure.
we're already that far along in the season.
Sure.
So now that money comes down that they have to pay. In the general scheme of things, when you know that you're going to be getting $1.7 billion for selling your team, you probably feel like a few $1,000,000 on an extra player that could help you make the playoffs, maybe make your team more attractive,
not when you're $500 million in debt and you don't know what's going on with that.
Well, and that comes into the equation too, but okay. Honestly, maybe I've just been listening to Donald Trump's book from like 1987 or whatever, The Art of the Deal, too much lately. But if I would have been the poll ads, seeing after the Orioles sold for 1.7, I would have went out and said, I don't care what Forbes is valuing us at. We're worth $2.1 billion.
Yeah.
That's what we're worth.
But then you're probably holding on for another year.
To start, it would have looked that way. It would have looked like you were further away. But now, after the Rays come in and sell for 1.7 to 1.8,
yeah,
without
a
stadium
or
and no fans, now you're looking at the Twins going, wow, maybe they are worth $2.1 billion. Could the Twins now get 2.1 and not have to, like the poll ads, and not have to worry about that debt? Like, obviously they still have to pay it, but they have extras now left over.
Right.
Like, honestly, I think they undersold themselves, because even when I saw the 1.7 number, when everybody was like, oh, if you're the poll ads, you should just be trying to get whatever you can.
1.5.
Like, what's an extra $200 million? Like, whatever. I saw that immediately and was like, they should be asking for a minimum of $1.7 billion just based on the Orioles sale. The Orioles are in Baltimore. Baltimore is a shit show, even worse, a worse area than the Twin Cities right now.
Yeah.
And they play in Camden Yards, which is old as fuck.
Cool.
And yeah, it's a nice ballpark. Like, it has some history or whatever, but like, let's be honest, if you own the Orioles and you could tear it down and build a $1.5 billion stadium in its place, you would jump on that opportunity. Like, Camden Yards is not considered one of the nicer ballparks in baseball. So, like Target Field is. Target Field is one of the better ballparks. I don't care when it was built. Like, it was built ahead of its time. That is an absolute asset that the Twins have that these other teams that are selling for their same price do not have. Not to mention a loyal fan base. Sure, like, we don't show up in droves when the Twins don't win, but I think a large part of that is because everybody hates the poll ads so much.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is part of it.
Like, if you brought in a new ownership group that everybody got behind, just look at what was it, almost a decade that people showed up and packed Target Field after it was built, no matter how bad they were. And then after the Metrodome was built, like, they did the same thing, and then they won the World Series. Like, the Metrodome was packed until the mid-90s, and it was built in the mid-80s. Like, the fan base is here if you can get them excited. So I think the poll ads kind of undersold themselves. I don't think that that the debt number ever should have gotten out. Like, if you set that number, if you set it at $2.1 billion and just stand by it and like, no, we're worth that number never has to get out to the public. The only reason why it ever went public is because you're asking for 1.7. They're saying you're worth 1.5, and now you're begging for that extra $2 million, or 200 million. So you're trying to say, hey, no, you have to save us. That's the only way we can do this. Essentially saying, yeah, we would sell it for 1.5 if we didn't have this debt, which again hurts the value even more if you're somebody coming in and buying. I know people will look at it and say, look, this is a $1 billion transaction. Like, how somebody acts or carries themselves or carries the sale would not affect it that much. I'm telling you, you're wrong. Like, how something like this is presented to the public, how it's seen, like, that affects human nature. And at the end of the day, the people who are coming in to buy the Twins, they might be billionaires and we might not be, but they're still humans. And when they think something is worth, when you convince them that something is worth something, they're much more likely to buy it. It is impossible now that the Twins get any more than the 1.7 because they have pretty much told the world that we would take 1.5 if we didn't have the debt. That's why I think Manfred came out and was like, hey, the debt's not a big deal. Because he's annoyed that ever got out in the first place, knowing how inconsequential that really should be. So the Twins have done themselves no favors, but the deal is going to get done. And the fact that the deal is going to get done, I think makes it more likely that they move someone at the deadline or make a big buy at the deadline. But by big buy, I don't mean some, $30 million a year pitcher. But a bigger buy than what they normally would. If they start losing, I think the selling conversation is more like entertaining as far as like a podcast or an article. Like in reality, no, I don't want them to sell anybody because I want to see the Twins win games and I don't want to cover a losing baseball team for the next 3 years. But when you look at the talent that they have to sell compared to what they would be willing to buy, that's where it gets interesting. Byron Buxton obviously isn't going anywhere, but Joe Ryan would be happy to go. They can't get rid of Lopez, but Griffin Jacks would bring in a whole shit ton. Juan Duran would bring in a ton. Carlos Correa's low on his value right now, so I would wait till the offseason to sell on him because he will go on a hot streak. Royce Lewis would bring in a ton. Brooks Lee would bring in a ton. Like Matt Wallner would bring in a pretty penny.
I'll ask the question that Barrero asked Gleeman. Do you think the right baseball decision in a non-sale year you should sell?
No.
Would that be the right decision?
No.
You'd say no. You'd buy?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't buy.
I'm not going to stand pat again. Dude.
Okay, here. How about this?
100%. Fucking enough mediocre bullshit.
Okay. I agree, but I'm selling Carlos Correa and I'm selling Pablo Lopez. But that's what I'm saying.
Correa.
How does selling Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis, how does that help you become a better baseball team anytime in the next 2 or 3 years? Those are the guys to me. Even Joe Ryan. Like Joe Ryan is under contract through 2028. How does selling Joe Ryan make you a better baseball team in 2026, 2027?
We got to,
But that doesn't work because even a new front office comes in and they take over and they have 2 years to turn things around before they have to start winning again? So why are you selling Joe Ryan? You need him if you're 4-year turnaround. You need Brooks Lee, 4-year turnaround. Royce Lewis.
If they're going to be hurt all season, you can get rid of them.
But what are you going to get back? You're going to get back prospects who are younger, AA, single A. What are the chances that they become the type of prospect that Royce Lewis is? The type of player that Brooks Lee is? These guys are in their mid-20s. So to me, putting a for sale sign in front of Target Field and going full out is not how a smart baseball organization would handle this deadline, even if they felt perfectly comfortable in their jobs and their team was not being sold. If it was just strictly a baseball organization conversation, yes, I'm trying to get rid of Correa, but probably not till this offseason because at the deadline, he's worth garbage. Byron Buxton doesn't want to go anywhere. If I can convince him that, hey, we're not trying to win until 2028, and I can get him to waive his no trade, yes, I'm definitely dealing Buxton because he's 31 years old and he's not going to be worth more at any time in his career the rest of the way than he's worth right now. So yes, but he has to.
I just feel like that's the same way with these other guys. By the time you try to win in 2028, Ryan will be 31. So then he has no, I don't know.
Yeah,
you're what are the next 2 years not going to be good?
You could convince me of Ryan. You could convince me on Ryan just because I forget, even though I've written it in 100 articles, that he's 29 years old.
Yeah. not mid-20s. I mean, Royce is whatever, and Brooks is whatever. But like those two guys,
the pitchers, you could convince me.
Sure, but those two guys, I just feel like you might take a chance with guys that don't have chronic injury issues, with other top prospects that don't have chronic injury issues.
Yeah, maybe. I can see that thinking, but at the same time, are we undervaluing just like where like modern medicine is right now? Like I mean that seriously, because look at Byron Buxton. We waited forever for Byron Buxton to get healthy. And last year, he had a surgery on his chronically bad knee that fixed his knee. And now and I say fixed because
do you think it was worth it for the years that he was out?
But hold on. I agree with you if you're assuming that the path for guys like Royce Lewis, guys like Brooks Lee could be similar. And I know Royce Lewis is mostly a knee injury. Brooks Lee is back.
Brooks is back, and he's came out and said, "I'm dealing with the chronic back injury for my entire career."
I agree. So yeah. But my point is, in general, if you assume that it wasn't just like you got lucky that this same procedure could have been done on Byron Buxton like 8 years ago and made him a Hall of Fame baseball player for his career. But if we assume that it's like, no, this type of surgery, or we wouldn't have been able to see that this was going on until a couple years ago, or that specific surgery wasn't available until a couple years ago, do you look at guys like Royce Lewis and think, yeah, they've had injury issues up until now, but do we sell them because of that, knowing that there's a 85% chance that's not going to be the rest of their career, and they're going to go on now for the next 10 years and be all-star caliber baseball players?
Right.
Because yes, I agree with you. If you are the Twins and you're concerned about the injury future of guys like Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee,
I mean, I certainly am.
Then yes, I'm saying the Twins know better than us. Like, they know the exact thing that Buxton had and when it was available. They know like what exactly Royce Lewis's knee looks like. If it's having to get drained ever. If it's
let me combat that with Royce. Sir, it's sometimes it's a knee, sometimes it's hamstring, it's doing this, it's doing this, it's not playing other positions. Like, at some point I'm done with the problems, and I'm just like, if I can get good value, well, we're not going to win anyways.
Yeah, but you could flip that conversation and say the same thing about this is a Twins problem, and like, are we now going to sell Royce Lewis for way less than what he's worth if we assume that he's a perennial all-star type player, a talent? Just because we send him, I'm not saying because right now he's not had the best year, so you're going to be selling him for less, and he's coming off of years where he struggled with injury. 2 years from now, if he turns things around and starts playing like he had for the couple years up until this most recent injury stretch where he's struggled actually on the field, but every time before that, when he's come back, he's dominated. So if he ends up being that baseball player, and 2 years from now, the injuries aren't as much of a concern, then he is going to be worth 18 times what he's worth right now on the open market. And we'll be looking at it and going, oh, there the Twins go again. Look at Brent Rooker.
I mean, we do it, but Brent Rooker didn't have we have too many outfielders. We have Alex Kirilloff, and we have Trevor
and we
Larnach,
sold the wrong one. But if we would have
Brent
given up,
Rooker,
who's to say if we would have given up Kirilloff that he wouldn't have went on to?
He wouldn't have, because he had chronic injuries.
But did he, or would? But if Rooker would have stayed, would he have had the same fucking issues that Kirilloff did, that Wallner has?
I think that's like putting like a lot on the Twins organization. Like, they ruined.
Hey, man,
that it's their fault that those
if
things
the shoe
happen.
fits, the shoe fits,
it's not.
Look at, I know Carlos Correa had a lot of injury concerns, especially with his feet and ankles before he came here.
Declining his contract, so don't tell me that it's
yes,
the Twins.
I understand that.
I won't even listen to it.
But reality and actual physical history tells us that he did not have a lot of injury issues in the majors until he got here.
Well, we knew
Byron
his
Buxton,
ankle was in
yeah,
bad shape.
he's been chronically injured his whole career, but his whole career has been spent in the Twins organization.
But
same thing with Royce Lewis, same thing with Brooks Lee.
What do you think they're doing wrong? They're not doing anything different than any other. I mean, they're people like work around the league.
I think in general they baby athletes more than other teams do. I think
Sure.
that hurts them for sure.
Sure. I don't think that leads to this situation.
No, I agree. And again, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic.
No, I know.
But the point stands in that trading, to me, if you're a smart baseball executive and you're looking at this and weighing pros and cons of each, yeah, there are plenty of fans out there that would want you to like just sell and be like, I'm done with this shit. We've dealt with these injuries. We're moving on.
Yeah.
But there's a very large portion of the fan base that would not feel that way. I would say 60%. So if you're a front office executive looking at this situation, you're going, okay, if I'd make this move, I'm setting myself back as far as like how fans and media are going to look at me. And then if it doesn't work out, which it's like, what, a 50-50 if you want to call it that?
But the immediate success is not going to work out either, and we're not
But
going
I'm saying,
and buying,
I'm saying in 2028, if your turnaround attempt, 2028, 2029, 2030 doesn't work out, like,
what was the alternative? Though?
The alternative,
50 and you're 500 and for the next 2 years, like we are right now
on.
with the same exact team.
Now you're being hyperbolic by saying that is the only outcome. If they don't completely tear it down, that the likely outcome is that they are a mediocre baseball team for the next 5 years, and I just don't. I don't see that as being the case. I would argue 100%.
They'll never go all in. So if you're gonna lightly buy or
the poll ads will never go all in. The poll ads will never go all in. But the poll ads will not own the Twins.
Sure.
Next year, we assume. So if we're just making baseball decisions based on, hey, we want to be a good baseball organization that's willing to buy when we have good opportunities to buy, and we're willing to hit the sell button when the better move is to hit the sell button. I'm looking at my team right now and saying, with better ownership, with better support, I feel like we have a really good chance in the next 2 years of building a team that could win a World Series. Like, if we already have Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, we have Carlos Correa, who's playing like shit right now. He is not going to play like this for the next 3 years. It's way more likely. Just look, like, even his time with the Twins. Like, this year is so bad compared to the rest of his career that
who's to say that that's not going to continue
because
as he gets older?
It's such an outlier that it would be impossible to take that.
Get old
no. Okay, all right, let's look it up then, tough guy.
I'm not being tough. I just don't think that Carlos Correa is going to turn it around 2 years from now when the Twins finally go back.
Carlos Correa is
285.
Carlos Correa is younger than Byron Buxton. Let me point that out. He will not turn 31 until after this season is over.
And he acts a lot older than Byron Buxton.
Okay, yes. But okay, let's look at his numbers. So last year, before he got injured, he hit .310 with a .905 OPS, a .152 OPS plus, and a 3.7 WAR, and that's just in 86 games, almost exactly half of the season. That's 3.7 WAR. Anybody who gets 5 or more WAR in a season is considered like $25 million a year plus player.
Yeah.
So
he had a great year last year.
And the year prior.
And then he turned 30.
And the year prior.
He had a 1.3 WAR the year prior.
Yeah, the year prior was
230 batting average.
Was 2023, the year that the Twins went on their playoff run. Okay?
And
Let's
That's
go
no
look at
outlier.
let's look at
That's
Carlos
no
Correa
outlier.
splits, because I'm gonna flip this to work against you, by the way. So just wait for it. In 2023, Carlos Correa had one of the worst starts to his career ever. Oh, I gotta bring up his game log. 2023 game log. From the start of the season through, here we go, through July 2nd, Correa played 74 games. He batted .218 with a .695 OPS. Okay? .695 OPS, .218 batting average.
Yeah.
From July 3rd through September 18th, when he went out for 2 weeks right before the start of the playoff run, because he wanted to give his plantar fasciitis a rest before the playoffs. Oh, it wasn't that much better.
I was the average of that, if he was only 218, ended at 230, he hit 250 for those 2 months.
Well, no, it was actually worse than that. I thought it was going to be better.
Okay.
711 OPS. But
so, I mean, yeah, I just.
Oh, no. Hold on. Never mind.
Okay.
I highlighted the whole thing. That was user error. All right. Try that again.
Okay,
Here we go.
23 from July.
All right, yeah, it wasn't that much better. 245 batting average, 730 OPS. And then in the playoffs,
what did he do in the playoffs in 23? Was he clutch? Like you were talking, like I remember, I mean, you've done a big thread about his clutchness in the playoffs.
In the 2023 playoffs, he batted .409 with a 1.004 OPS.
Unfortunately, we lost.
We lost in the division round. Yep, in the divisional round. So, but my point is, the reason why I'm keeping Carlos Correa for sure through the end of the season is because he's gonna turn it around. Now, will it be, what I hope it will be?
2 years from now, he's 32.
32. He's not 40.
Sure. No, but he's bad at 30 and his body's falling
He's
apart.
not bad at 30. He's had one bad season. Okay.
In addition to 23.
And here's the thing that people, for whatever reason, they don't factor in a lot of times when talking about Carlos Correa, is that in 2 years he's going to move to third base, which will immediately for the rest of his career.
What are we going to do with Royce?
Hold on, which will immediately for the rest of his career make him the best defensive third baseman in the MLB, hands down.
Third baseman can't hit 230.
Our third baseman is not going to hit 230. Again,
He did in 2023.
He did in 2023. He didn't in 2024. And in 2023, in the playoffs, he proved that he's still the best clutch hitter. So if you're the Twins and you want to win, in the playoffs in the next few years, the last person that you are cutting loose would be Carlos Correa, because his contract is so big that if you tried to trade him and he's not playing at all-star caliber, then you are going to get a fraction of what he's worth when it comes to getting players back. It's going to look like the KG deal, where the best thing you get back is Richard Jefferson.
Yeah,
okay?
but he's not going to go and win like KG did.
That is
star.
Wow. What? All right. Do you need me to pull up Carlos Correa's postseason stats and prove to you once again that he's the greatest? He's one of the greatest postseason players in MLB history. Not just like, oh, he's good for the Twins. No, Carlos Correa is one of the most clutch players in postseason MLB history. Okay, like right up there with
they cheated for one of those seasons and maybe more. I will say.
The Twins weren't cheating last season once he had to strap up his playoff bootstraps. Like, what did he do? So I'm saying that I
just don't think the value's there in 2 years. I just don't.
I would say that the value for Carlos Correa will be way better in 2 years than it is right now on the trade market, because he will only have 1 year remaining on his contract. And once he only has 1 year remaining at $36 million a year, when there's a lot of people at that point that probably make way more than him, that 1 year of half year of Carlos Correa or 1 year of Carlos Correa to infuse a really good 32-year-old or veteran into your playoff caliber team, either at third base or shortstop, will be much more valuable, or look to be much more valuable to a buying team than he is right now when you have to pay him for 3 more years at $35 million a year. And people think, like you think, that he's all of a sudden hit this cliff that he's never going to be able to climb back up. So, yes. So, if he is at the point where, hey, like Royce Lewis has turned it around, he looks like the Hall of Fame player we hoped he'd be. Brooks Lee is a 275, 850 OPS guy. All right, yep, perfect. Then if you have somebody else, maybe Kalen Culpepper looks like the next superstar shortstop. Okay, perfect. Now we can move Carlos Correa, and it makes way more sense for everybody involved than moving him right now. Like if you're gonna move somebody right now and you want to get something back and you don't want to get fucked, then yeah, it's gonna be Joe Ryan. Maybe even a Brooks Lee. You reach into your minor league system and you include you trade away. I mean, if you really wanted to go all out, if the Twins wanted to, they could trade Joe Ryan and include why can't I think of his name? I've been trying to think of it for the last 5 minutes. Who's the number 1 prospect in baseball right now? Like top 5 Twins prospect. Like, why can't I think of his name?
Rodriguez?
No, he's the other one. People are yelling into their screens right now. Walker Jenkins. God, I couldn't think. I'm like, why can I not think?
Trade him. No, you wouldn't trade him.
But I don't
know why you would include him.
My point is, if you wanted to go and get a haul, you could grab a guy like Emmanuel Rodriguez, Kalen Cole. Like we have, and I'm not, and include him in
the guys that we want in 26.
But
I'm not MLB ready guys right now. If you're going through this sale proposition, like if you were to sell and you wanted to sell everybody, I want to sell everybody that's capable of playing.
Then yes, I would agree with you. Joe Ryan is the only thing that's going to bring that back.
Yeah, I don't want to sell any of these. We have.
But if you're looking to sell, but I'm saying if you're looking, because if you went to trade Royce Lewis right now, you're not getting anything back. If you trade Brooks Lee, you're not getting you'll get a top 3 prospect in somebody's organization, but that number 3 prospect in the organization is going to be number 98 overall in the top 100. That's the type of prospect that you're going to get back or hope to get back if you're trading one of those guys right now. And Brooks Lee probably won't even bring that back. And if you're going to get that back out of Royce Lewis, you're going to get it out of a team that just really loves him and doesn't think his injury issues are going to be long term. So that's my point is the only piece that you really have is Joe Ryan. And if I am a smart baseball person who's looking to turn the Twins around, and on the bright side, let's say you don't. Like the Twins have enough pieces where if you screw it up and it doesn't work out in the next 2 years, you could turn around 2 years from now and sell a Carlos Correa, sell a Byron Buxton at 32, 33 years old. You could sell Royce Lewis at that point. Royce Lewis is not going to be worth less in 2 years than he's worth right now.
No, he won't be. But
so if you're a smart baseball person who's looking at the whole picture, and you go, yes, it wouldn't be a bad idea to sell Joe Ryan right now and a Juan Duran and a Griffin Jacks and a tear it down and call it a year, right? Like you're not gonna deal Correa, you're not gonna deal Buxton. Those are the guys that you're gonna trade and you're gonna call it a year. I'm looking at that and I'm saying, from an overall perspective, if I'm a smart baseball person, that guarantees me absolutely nothing in the next 3 or 4 years. And when I'm looking at this team, like, could we sell? Yes. But it's just as possible that this roster with better support from ownership could turn around and be really good in 2 years. So if I'm trying to float that fence, which is what I would be trying to do if I am a smart baseball person looking at the Twins organization and where they're at right now, I would look at it and go, with better support, I want Joe Ryan on my team over a top prospect who is probably going to be here in 2028, 2029.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would
think
rather
it's a
have Griffin
deep
Jacks
conversation
and
that
Juwan
you have to
Duran
have.
because Juwan Duran and Griffin Jacks, they do not get done with their contracts until through 2027. So what do you have for bullpen support if you trade those guys who are, again, in their, mid to late 20s?
I just looked up Griffin Jacks, but for some reason it's not.
And you
telling me.
trade away those pieces.
Yeah, no, Griffin is 30 right now.
Yeah.
So you trade him.
A bullpen pitcher I don't think is going to be worth any less in 2028 as long as he's still good at 32
If
years
he's
old
30.
compared to 30. Because
Juwan
bullpen
Duran
pitchers
is
just
so big,
don't
but he's
get.
got 2 years of control. That's why he's got appeal. And 2
But
years,
I
you
don't
won't
think
have
in the
any
bullpen that matters. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter. Like bullpen pitchers come and go in the MLB. Like,
yeah, I mean, you pay for him at the deadline when you need a back end arm.
that's what I'm saying. So like you could be in the same exact situation next year and get just as much for those guys. So just given the flux with ownership, the
other guys I agree with you because like Duran's 27, Varland's 27, but Jax is 30. Like you're not.
And
going
you have
to use
Louis
him for
Varland
the next 3 years.
That's
what I'm saying.
why I think yes, it's very possible that if somebody comes along with a above value deal for Griffin Jacks, for Juwan Duran, for Louis Varland, for those guys, not Joe Ryan, because it would just have to be such a massive package that I just don't see another team going that high. But I can see, yes, for sure, because the Twins have multiple arms, they will deal one or two of those guys if the right package comes along. But if they don't, it's because they're looking at it and going, yes, we got market value offers, but market value offers will be there next year. And we don't know where we are. And so from a organizational standpoint, a smart baseball person would just stand still, hope you get better ownership next year, and then they support you in a way that the poll ads haven't. And then you have $30 million to spend either at the end of between the end of next offseason and the trade deadline, where you can add talent without worrying about how much money you're spending. And if you do that, like, look at it too. If you're Falvey and you're thinking, like, what would we look like? What would we be trying to do as an organization in the offseason if we had better support from ownership? That's when I turn the conversation the other way and look at the talent that they have and go, if we had the blessing from ownership to go and get more MLB top-tier talent.
They could do it.
We have an Emmanuel Rodriguez. We have a Kalen Culpepper. So, like, again, you're just in such a state of, with the poll ads selling, we don't know what we're going to be next year, that I think a smart baseball person most likely stands still. Unless, like I said, yes, if it breaks, Twins trade X whatever, and a lot of times you see the news break for 10 minutes before you start to see the package come back.
Yeah.
Like, I will be expecting, like, everybody to look at that and go, wow, the Twins got a haul.
Yeah.
Once the package comes back, because the only way I see them dealing anything that they think can help them win in the next 2 to 3 years is if they get offered an above market package. And I really only see that happening in the bullpen with Jax, Duran, Varland. Stewart is a very high likelihood. I think if they got market value for Stewart,
he's an old guy too.
He's old and he's had injury issues. If they get anything decent for him, they'll deal him. But
100%, I think they will.
And same thing with Paddock. When you look at the starting rotation, Paddock is in that same boat. Simeon Woods Richardson is in that same boat. Like, I could see a team liking Simeon Woods Richardson because of how he's looked since he's come
100%.
back, and offer up a top 100 prospect for him, and the Twins jump on it. Could totally see that, because I don't think they believe in Woods Richardson long term. They see him as like a Brad Radke light, and in 2025, Brad Radke's like don't exist, and Brad Radke's light definitely don't exist. So that's kind of I could see those types of deals getting made, but I don't know about anything above and beyond that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's our discussion on trade deadline. The last thing I want to touch about with the Twins is an update on Pablo Lopez that Dan Hayes gave in his article. I think that was written this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to quote this. Then there's Pablo Lopez, who's played catch for the last 10 days. On Friday, Lopez said his process is off to a good start. Quoting Lopez here, the first day I was a little like hesitant because I hadn't thrown a ball in 30 some days, Lopez said. But then the next two were like, I've done this my whole life. Nice and easy. This is the part I found most interesting. Lopez returning from the same injury that ended Joe Ryan's 2024 season, a grade 2 teres major strain. Unlike Ryan, Lopez won't have time to fully recover, which means the team will rely on his feedback. I have to be smart about it, Lopez said. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to throw with an MRI showing a little bit of something. And that's when I have to be honest. Like, I can push myself.
Yeah, I too found that very interesting.
Coming from a pitcher that has dealt with shit, I think it's dumb to come back when you're not healthy, especially for a team that's 2 games under 500 when you're not going to be as effective as you would be at full health, and you're probably going to re-injure. I just don't even understand what any of this means. So let's hear your take.
So I agree with you that would be the stance if it was the type of thing where it's like you could like re-injure it seriously. To me, I think that this is more of they expect to see inflammation. They expect to see like build up, like
I mean, that's stuff that you see from normal wear and tear. That's not stuff you see from a grade 2 teres major strain.
No, but like, I think my guess, and I'm not a freaking doctor, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. But my guess is that when you're coming back from a major shoulder injury like this, there's certain like buildups, and your muscles, once you start like throwing again, they're going to react differently. And like for somebody like you would throw and you would go, that's normal, like that's normal soreness, and you know what that normal soreness feels like compared to this bad.
Sure.
And you're gonna, but the MRI in a world where he can walk into the target literally every single day.
Yep.
Those moments, the MRI might show like his muscles and stuff reacting to like getting back going, throwing 40, 50, 60 full pitches is going to show like certain things, and they're going to have to rely on him to fully understand like, hey, is this healthy, like coming back, and we're expecting soreness, or is this, this doesn't feel right type of soreness? Because unlike Joe Ryan, like he got the full off season like start at 10 pit throws and then start at 20.
Well, that's what I mean. When you do that, I don't know, when you're not coming back.
And MRIs, not only that, but like he wasn't even in the Twins facility probably, and like MRIs were once every couple months, and because they, if he felt more sore one day, then he just wouldn't throw as much the next day, etc.
Probably like a certain amount of time off.
Yeah,
like more than 30 days that Pablo took.
And with Pablo, like they know that history tells us you can come back from this injury in X time frame. So we know that that's like a healthy time frame to start to bring you back.
Yeah.
But because we have all these like tools that can tell us exactly like what's happening in your muscles, and like our medical technology is honestly a lot of times ahead of doctors and knowing exactly what it means, what they're seeing, like what it means to them. Because it's like so new, having like what MRIs, even in last 10 years, they've been this available to professional franchises.
They've got ultrasounds that they've got on video, like a pregnancy type thing, right? Where they're literally rubbing it out, like your shoulder, your elbow. Okay, this is this tendons. We can look at them. We can see the buildup. We can see
so they'll be working together. Like, I'm kind of feeling it like right here. So then they'll take those machines and they'll go over it and see, and looks like, how does this feel and how does that feel? I think it's going to be a lot of that. And
let me just say, I don't think it's ever going to get to the point where if we're not in the playoffs, where it feels good enough to go out there and pitch in a game And like, I don't know how that happens.
I agree with that, but I think again, and we do this as fans, we're like, the human element of all of this matters, and we do not talk about that enough as fans. And that's where you are undervaluing, especially like knowing you and like, you know, what you would do for your teammates and like how, like, you know, look at it. And this is, you know, other people are going to think that this metaphor is dumb or not going to know what I'm talking about. But like, you now are playing professional ball and you're dealing with an injury, and so you're not playing right this moment. But in past summers, you've played for our hometown small ball or town ball baseball team, the Randall Cubs. And as you got older, obviously, being better and better. Now, the last couple of years that you've pitched for the Cubs, you have been the Cubs. Like, when you're on the Cubs are really good because at that level, having a D1 type pitcher puts you at such an advantage that it makes you a completely different baseball team. So from a human element standpoint, the day that you show back onto the Cubs, it's going to make everybody better. Like, everybody, it's going to lift the entire team. And so if you're Pablo Lopez and you're trying to come back from this injury and you know that you're the ace of this club that's hovering around 500 and needs another pitcher at the top of the rotation, and you're hanging out with those guys, and every time you get into the locker room, they're asking you and whatever, like, you are going to want to get back into the rotation as long as you can convince yourself that it's not going to harm the long term.
You're going to want to, yeah, but that's what I mean.
But
like,
but what's convincing yourself? Like, at the end of the day, if you can look in the mirror level, and saying, right? Like, there's like
nothing,
there's a 95% chance that this is not going to like make me not be able to pitch at the start of next season. Like, that's probably what it's going to be. Like, are you going to look at that and look in the mirror and go, I'm going to say no to my teammates even though I think I could go? Like,
sure.
You're just not going to do that.
Let me counter with, if that's the case, I agree. I think the case might be much more like 6 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, he's like, I maybe could pitch. It's not going to feel good. I'm probably going to suck, even worse than fucking Bailey Ober would. Is it worth it? What's the record? Like, to me, it's going to be much more like that than like I can go and guarantee we're going to make the playoffs. You know, I mean, like, obviously it's not
I don't think I agree. If it's like that, then I don't think he comes back. I think the only way that he comes back, the way
they're talking about it doesn't seem like that, obviously.
And I mean, you have to look at it too. Like, yes, him coming back in general is going to lift up the spirit of teammates, the organization, the fans, whatever. Sure. But if he comes in and he's in his first start and he's firing 91 miles an hour and he can't hit the strike zone and his curveball looks like shit and they get 12 runs on him, like, nobody's going to be excited after that.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to be convinced that I'm still that guy. And then it's just a matter of, you know, the pain I'm feeling, because there's going to be soreness. There's going to be some pain. Is that normal wear and tear from coming back from a long-term shoulder injury that didn't get a full offseason to heal, or is this something different? And to me, what I'm thinking about is less that, because I think if he comes back, he's going to come back and he's going to feel good about where he is.
Yeah.
To me, it's more what happens over the next 4 weeks as he starts ramping up and they're working together to get to this place that they want to be at. Does he have a setback like Carlos Correa did last year when he was trying to come back, or has in previous years, or Byron Buxton or whoever? Does he have a throwing session where something tweaks in his shoulder and now all of a sudden now it's like a whole different conversation? To me, that's what I'm more worried about. If he gets back on the mound, I feel good about where he's going to be. To me, it's, does he end up getting back to the mound, or do we wake up, 3 weeks from now, and the first thing I read posted at 5 a.m. at The Athletic, and I'm reading at 6:25, and, buried in some injury update is Pablo Lopez was getting ready for, a rehab start that he was going to start next week, but in his most recent throwing session felt a tweak in his shoulder near his, and now they're going to stop throwing for a week and reevaluate. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I am worried about when I'm thinking about Pablo Lopez and the idea of him coming back for this playoff run is, does he make it back? I think if he makes it back, I feel pretty good about where he'll be and
Yeah,
where the
I
Twins
guess,
would be, because if the Twins fall off sometime in that next month, then yes, I think he shuts it down.
That's where part of it was kind of like, yeah, if he makes it back, sure. I don't expect him to go on the mound and throw, 91 in a real game, but when he's on his ramp up back, how are his bullpens when he feels like he's throwing 95%? How, that's.
But again, if he isn't throwing 90, what does he throw, 95? If he's not throwing 95, it's going to be a question of why, and then it's going to be because when I try to throw 95, it kind of hurts, or I just need to throw harder, work on my mechanics, and they'll figure that out.
Well,
so
that
those throwing sessions, they're going to know, and that to me will tell us a lot too, because look at the throwing session that Zebby Matthews had the other day. Right before he went onto his rehab assignment. Yeah. He was throwing against Luke Keishgall, who was telling him to throw me inside, throw me inside, pussy. He didn't say pussy, but that's how I see it in my head. Throw me inside, pussy. But he's throwing 96, 97 on the gun in that throwing session. They felt good. They felt so good, by the way, and I didn't write about this because it was reported by Declan Goff, who it works for Score North, and I know he's plugged in. So very much plugged in. But I think he floats things a lot of times that I think even a Darren Wolfson might not. And that happened the other day when he was talking about Zebby Matthews, and it was TBD for who was going to pitch on Saturday.
Yeah.
And that was 2 days before that, and he was floating that he was hearing it was going to be Zebby who pitched on Saturday. Well, Zebby ended up throwing a rehab assignment on Saturday, didn't end up pitching for the Twins. So Declan was on to something, but they were feeling so good about him that they were probably thinking about bringing him up, but they didn't. And he went to AAA and absolutely dominated. 9 strikeouts, 4 innings, whatever. We're going to know, as Pablo starts ramping up, we're going to start seeing, in reports, and that's why, people look at what we do, what, I do, what MSF does, and calls it whatever, but when you follow news and you read literally everything that comes out and try to listen to everything from anybody who would know, you start to see things and understand things before they happen, and that's what makes websites like Minnesota Sports Fan popular, is because people don't have time to go and do all of that, and we bring those notes and tidbits to the real world. Not all of them end up happening, but you kind of start to understand how the sausage is made, how they get from point A to point B, even if it ends up taking a side street or a couple side streets on the way there. You end up, by the time it got there, why it got there, and that helps you understand how they'll act, how certain executives will act in the future, how teams will act in the future, what they'll do, and that's, to me, what is so fun about sports in general. That note from Declan, only the people who listened to that Score North, and it was quite a few, because I think Doogie was on that one, so it's probably 75,000 people on YouTube, and then however many people listen to it. But there are millions and millions of Minnesota sports fans who are interested in hearing that little tidbit. So back to what I was saying. And that actually brings us back to Hayes' article, because he had more injury tidbits in there. Bailey Ober is about to start a rehab assignment, and he feels like his hip issue is completely fixed. So that is another one of those notes where it's like it matters how he says it, right? Like how he writes it, because he could just include in there that Ober is starting a rehab assignment pretty soon and that he plans to be back, right? The reason why that little tidbit is in there is because Ober is obviously feeling better, his hip, than before he went on the injury list, and obviously likes his stuff right now in his workout sessions, and the Twins like his stuff in his workout sessions better than what his stuff was showing prior to the injury. And so, like, that's worth noting. I think Bailey Ober could come back and be a little bit better. And then Zebby Matthews is about to return, obviously. In the next couple weeks, the Twins rotation could look a lot different. And then if Pablo is able to come back, I mean, again, this team on paper, as long as we assume that Buxton is who he is, Correa is going to be better than who he's been. And then, like, because look at, like, what made us think that this team was not very good a month ago? Their record, right? Because who was playing bad? Royce Lewis playing bad. Brooks Lee playing bad. Matt Wallner right now playing bad. Like, the guys playing well are Harrison Bader. Like, Harrison Bader has been up and down offensively throughout his career, not a reliable offensive player. Ryan Jeffers has been really good. He's been up and down offensively throughout his career. Like, to me, what had us believing in this team and what had, like, pundits and projection systems believing in this team has not performed up to what they should. So baseball is a 162-game season for a reason. They've hung in it until this point. I don't think that even if they don't, or if they stand mostly pat at the deadline, I feel pretty good about where the Twins are at as long as they continue to get healthy, which is obviously a whole nother conversation. But as long as Buxton stays healthy like he's proven so far that he can, Correa starts to get better, and Royce Lewis is better in the first half than he was in the second half. Brooks Lee better in the first half than he was in the second half, which I think are way more likely than not, right? Like, would you expect Royce Lewis to end his season with a, 215 batting average and
I don't,
650 OPS? Like, same with Brooks Lee. Like, the
like,
law of
people
averages
have bad
says
seasons.
that the law of averages says that the Twins hovered around 500 and finished the first half of the season at 47 and 49 with a lot of their guys not performing like they should. So even if we assume, let's say Correa doesn't have a bounce back, Royce Lewis doesn't have a bounce back, Brooks Lee doesn't have a bounce back, Wallner doesn't have a bounce back, like, a couple of those guys are going to have a bounce back. Plus you add the other starters into the rotation. For the Twins to make the playoffs, they have to play probably +6 the rest of the way, finish 4 games above 500 maybe, and they'll make the playoffs.
Sure.
Like, again, law of averages, I would say that is more likely to happen than for them to play worse in the second half than they played in the first half.
Maybe they won't play worse, but they might play the same.
Well, yeah. That's
people have bad seasons.
People have told me that there is some gray in the color wheel. So
that's
possible.
what I mean. It's not. I just
don't
think that it's guaranteed that all these guys get out of their slumps, because at this point it's not a slump. We're halfway through the season. It's not a slump.
Well, you could argue that Royce Lewis didn't play the whole season. Neither did Brooks Lee.
Yeah, sure. He could be in this. I mean, injuries certainly make it a lot harder to perform on a consistent basis. I just definitely, like, over the first half, it doesn't, like, I'm not coming out and just being like, I know you are, and I know, and honestly, not honestly, but you pay attention better than me. You look at the numbers more than me. So I certainly can see it happening where it's like, yeah, Correa's, law of averages, he comes back out and does this. I just don't give so much optimism to that idea. I guess that's my personality.
Well, I have been accused of being an eternal optimist, especially.
I know you have. I
when it
have
comes
to,
to
and
the
I think I'm the
local
opposite.
teams.
I don't know how it happened, but I think I'm the exact
Well,
opposite.
yeah, I think Dad's perpetual
I hate this
his
perpetual negativity. No, I
negativity
get that.
is what made
Sure.
me how I am,
Oh,
because
okay.
like so you got nobody watching
Nobody
knows my
cares,
father, but my father is the most
The worst.
negative Minnesota sports fan
The worst.
you've ever met. Not necessarily like when you're just chatting about your teams, like a trade deadline or the upcoming season, or
No, he's
or
fine
how
then,
a team
but
is
if you're
when
watching
they're
a game.
playing. During the games, he is the absolute worst. There were times that we used to have huge parties, like in garage, friends, family, whatever, and there were a handful of times where my dad would pull us out and leave early because he was so mad, just to get home and then end up going back because our team would make a comeback and he would want to get back to like celebrate with the party or whatever. So my eternal optimism, I think, just comes from constantly trying to find the positivity no matter where it is, because in my ear it's just constant negativity and like, well, if
Yeah.
this happens, I don't know, if this happens, then whatever. So
I'll
I
say
think that's what
that
it comes
I'm in the
from.
middle. I've got one in each ear. I've got the eternal optimist and the eternal pessimist, and I'm a realist. I'm right in the middle. That's what I like to say.
Fair
So
enough.
if you're looking for opinions, follow me. Anyways, 3 more things we got to hit. We're getting away from the Twins now. We've been going way too long.
Classic.
First one, you wrote an article on this. I just want to sort of get it out of the way, but also touch on it really quick. Gophers football maybe sharing some of their revenue with Gophers men's basketball. You wrote about this. It came from a report from Charlie, right?
Yep, Charlie Walters, Pioneer Press.
Yep. So explain this to me. Tell me how much money we're giving and how much it's going to affect football and basketball.
Yeah, so let me get the numbers up here so I don't just screw it all up. But
Well,
essentially,
I just pulled it up
there's
too.
$20.5 million that each Power 5 school is allotted to pay their student athletes, and they can pick and choose essentially how much they pay them. They don't have to do the full 20.5. They can do part of that, all of that, but they have to disclose how much of their athletic budget, because this money's coming out of the athletic budget, is getting dispersed to the players up to $20.5 million. So for most Power 5 schools that care about, I feel like I'm going slow all of a sudden, that care about football, about 75% of their total allotment is going to football, which is $15-ish million. So that's kind of what's been reported by the Star Tribune, multiple kind of outlets, that the plan for the Gophers is to do the same sort of thing as other places. A small chunk will go to women's basketball, hockey, volleyball, and I think that's it. And then 75% to football, 15% to basketball, to men's basketball. But then in his report, Charlie Walters at the Pioneer Press wrote, I gotta wait for my read more button to go away here.
I told you that thing is causing problems.
Ohio State is saying publicly it plans to spend $18 million on athletes for the coming academic year. The Gophers aren't saying, but are expected to spend about $13 million on football and $5 million on men's and women's basketball. So the $1.3 million or the $13 million comes in at about $2 million less than the $15 million everybody else is projecting. And the basketball number comes in $2 million more than everybody is projecting. That, along with a previous report, I believe by Charlie Walters, that said Coyle plans to give an extra chunk of money to basketball that people were rumored would be about $2.5 million more dollars than what would normally be attributed to basketball. Remember, it all has to come out of that same $20.5 million. They can't grab it from somewhere else.
Right.
So if, like what was previously reported even before this, Gopher basketball is getting that extra $2 million, it has to come from somewhere. So Charlie writing that $13 million only is going to football compared to what it was $15 million before pretty much guarantees to me that Fleck is, because Fleck gets whatever he wants. If Fleck wanted all $15 million, he'd get all $15 million. Fleck is allowing a chunk of his revenue share money to go for basketball because he knows that Gopher basketball, the brand of Gopher basketball, matters to football.
Oh, of course.
Like having the Gopher men's basketball team in the NCAA tournament on a regular basis builds the Gopher athletics brand, puts them in the spotlight more often, gives PJ Fleck opportunities to show his face at the NCAA tournament or do whatever. Like it means something to Gopher football. So to him, with the football program being set right now from everything that we hear in NIL, doing very well. We don't know exact numbers, but it sounds like Gopher football is doing better than most middling Big Ten teams. Like obviously they're not Ohio State, they're not Michigan, they're not Penn State. But when you think of the Wisconsins, the Purdues, the those teams of the world, we're doing way better than them when it comes to NIL, and that all goes back to PJ's big pitch on KFAN when we lost Bucky Irving to Oregon. But financially, NIL-wise, Gopher football is doing great. So for him to, what I see is probably is more like borrow $2 million. My guess would be over like the next, let's say 5 years, because that, money, it wouldn't surprise me if like $500,000 a year goes back into the kitty for Gopher football, and this is more like a loan. We would never know those details.
Maybe it's just a borrow with no payback.
Maybe, but if I'm PJ Fleck, the most important thing is that I win. And you're already doing him a solid. So again, that's just me.
Yeah,
I live in a world where like money, matters, and I know it matters to everybody, whatever. But when you start talking about like these huge dollar figures, I just don't see like PJ Fleck going, yeah, it'll help us out too. So go ahead and take an extra $2 million. Like that $2 million is crucially important. So if he's gonna do them a favor, it's got to be some sort of quid pro quo on the other end. But who knows? Either way, it sounds like Gopher football is conceding about $2 million of their revenue share money to Gopher basketball while they try to build up their NIL cupboards after they were never ever filled I almost said cleaned out by Ben Johnson, but there was never any money in there. Like he came in with them empty and then just refused to keep Dawson Garcia.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so I mean, it sounds positive for Gopher basketball.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Gopher basketball,
it looks like it's in a good spot. I mean, I obviously see Nico trying to get his face out there and do all those other things.
I think the bet that Mark Coyle is making on Nico Medved tells us exactly how excited we should be about the Gopher basketball program. I wrote about this the other day too. Not only is he giving them extra revenue share money to build up the roster a little bit more, but people don't understand Nico Medved was hand chosen by Mark Coyle. There was no search process. There was no outside entity brought in. There were no other major players in the University of Minnesota, whether it be a Board of Regents member or the president or anybody else. Most didn't have any idea what Coyle was even doing. Most thought Ben Johnson was still going to be back because they had little idea that Coyle already knew what he was going to do. He had handpicked Nico Medved probably middle of the season once he realized Ben Johnson was not going to go back. It was not going to the NCAA tournament. And then he goes to the Board of Regents the other day, and he has to sell them on how they're going to fix the budget, which now that they have to pay players, that comes out of the athletic budget that was in balance before, which is saying something because most are not. USC just came out with a story. They're like $200 million like in debt or something because of the deficit that they run in the athletic department every year.
Wow.
The Gophers run, that's one thing Coyle's been great at, is running a tight and fiscally sound budget in the athletic department, which is rare. And now he had to go to the Board of Regents and sell, or they knew that it was coming. It was no surprise because everybody knew that these payments were going out to players. But how are we going to, in the future, make up for this? I think it was like $7.5 million now, budget deficit in the athletic department. And one of his major selling points was turning around Gopher basketball. He said that putting seats back or putting fans back into the stands at Williams Arena will like exponentially increase revenue, which it would, because there are 15,000 seats in the barn and only 3,000 of them are filled on average right now, like 3,000 to 5,000 each game. So if you times that by 3, the amount of money plus the concessions plus the merchandise, like it would skyrocket. But in order for that to happen, you have to have success. Like nobody is going to the barn to watch Gopher basketball off a hope and a prayer from Nico Medved. So there will have to be success. So not only is he betting on them like, hey, I handpicked this guy, this is my guy, like it's all on me, but then he goes to the Board of Regents and says, hey, part of one of the major ways that we're going to fill this deficit is through Gopher basketball winning, which it hasn't done at a high level since the 90s. So that's, to me, that says everything I need to know about how confident Coyle is that Nico Medved will turn things around. So that has me like, you know me, like Gopher basketball is my number one sport in town. Yeah. So just the idea of them being good again, like gets me to a point of excitement where I have to go, okay, like don't get over the top. You don't even know who any of the players are, like whatever. So I've just kind of been sitting on my excitement around this team, but if Coyle is as excited as he is, then I feel pretty good about Nico too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay, 2 things left. Coy Perich wants to play for the Vikings bad. He talked about that today. I saw you write the article. So his quote is here, when somebody asked if he envisioned himself playing for the Gophers, he said he didn't even watch college football. My dream was to play for the Vikings. I would just skip through college if I could and just gone straight to the Vikings, but you got to do your 3 years.
I love how it's not like NFL. It's just Vikings. And even now, like, that's how every kid, is, whatever. And I wrote about that in the article about especially outstate Minnesota Viking fan, like, kids. Like, you grow up worshiping, like, the Vikings in, almost a religious manner. Like, if you don't cheer for them hard enough, you're going to hell. And if you're a good Vikings fan, then you will go to heaven. Like, that is the type of fandom that's in outstate Minnesota. And I know that exists in the Twin Cities as too. It's just not as prevalent. Like, you go into a small town bar anywhere in the state of Minnesota, and it is everything Vikings. And there's probably 7 adults in that bar wearing a Vikings jersey. Like, it is a religion. And so it doesn't surprise me that he felt that way. But it is cool to hear him talk about it now and not change it to the NFL and be like, back then I dreamed about playing for the Vikings, and then change it to, if I could just skip and go to the NFL now, like I just want to play in the NFL. Like, no, each time he mentioned, like, I don't want to be a Gopher, it wasn't like I don't want to be a Gopher, I want to be in the NFL. It was, I don't want to be a Gopher, I want to be a Viking. Like, so I love that. I also love how Coy Perich reminds me of Anthony Edwards in that he doesn't need like media training or whatever, like for people to like him. It's letting him go in completely unscripted because he's so much like himself is what makes him so likable, because nobody in their right mind would ever coach him inside that program to say, I never wanted to play for the Gophers.
Yeah.
Like, if you are like a cleaned up media personality or like media friendly athlete, you spin that and you go, oh, I've been dreaming of playing for my hometown teams my whole life. It was Vikings, it was Gophers, whatever. Like, you spin it. But it didn't even cross his mind to be like politically correct like that. It was that she asked a question and he was like, no. Like, it was just absolutely not. Like, no, I dreamed about being the Vikings. I never even watched the Gophers, which is funny because the Gophers just haven't been good since the 70s. And so the Vikings took over the town, and it just goes to show that how much of the fan base Gopher football lost when they went through their horrible stretch in the 80s and in the 90s. And then, like, by the time Glenn Mason took over and tried making the team relevant again, it was a mountain to climb to make that happen. And then any progress that he made completely went down the shitter once they traded out him for Brewster. And that was like, I think 2004, sometime around 2005. And once they did that, then nobody was paying attention anymore. And by the time Kill got the program, they couldn't even convince a 2-star to come here. Like, Kill turned the program around on pure talent, or on pure like will and tears and manpower. And
Tracy Clays.
And then Fleck took it over, and it was in a much better place, but it needed to. Now it's finally getting to where it's starting to get national recognition again. So it'll be interesting to see where the Gopher football program is in like 10 years compared to the Vikings.
Yeah, no, it certainly will. Okay, last thing, Jordan Addison. There's been a little rumblings with his pretrial. That's what they called it, right?
He was supposed to have. Like
Thursday.
Tuesday was supposed to be his like trial date, and then it never happened. And then instead of having his initial trial date on Tuesday, some sort of what Florio wrote as being described as a pre-trial hearing was then scheduled for Thursday, and that gets into Florio's speculation, which I'll let you read.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just from TPP is just that they had said that Florio mentions that some think there will be a plea deal that is formalized, but also says an example there could be an unresolved issue of evidence that the judge has decided to address, and they point out that Florio has a law degree, which you also mentioned when we were talking pre-show. So, what are your thoughts on this extra evidence?
My thoughts are that I think this is what Florio is alluding to. He didn't want to say this because he doesn't want to be wrong. You think he's just clickbaiting. But it's out of the ordinary, and I think it plays into, likely, I would guess, into Jordan Addison's favor. That there's some sort of, evidence or whatever that, but I guess it could be the other way too, because it could be.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It could be against him.
It could be against him that now he wants to do a plea deal instead of previously he had been pleading not guilty. So it could go either way, but I think he's just pointing out that it's out of the ordinary, and it means that whatever happens tomorrow on Thursday, don't be surprised if the outcome or whatever's announced is different than what it has been, what it has been is Jordan Addison is going forward with trial, pleading not guilty, and he was requesting a jury trial specifically. So if that has now changed and he is, either changing his plea or possibly the prosecutors have decided to change their charges or take charges away. That's the only reason why they would have, most of the time, some sort of like, why they would have not started the trial on Tuesday and then scheduled a pretrial hearing for Thursday.
Right.
So I do think that Florio's history as a lawyer definitely plays into this.
Sure.
Do I think that he's clickbaiting in general? I mean, kind of. But to me, it would be...
Yeah, I mean, there could be something there.
And if you're him, yeah, you call it clickbaiting if you want, because he doesn't really have, like, anything. Like, it's not like saying that it actually means anything.
That's what he means. Yeah, he's just like, there's not enough to infer what it could be.
But at the same time, I look at it as he's doing the same job as me, which is to get as many clicks as possible and make as much money as possible.
Sure.
And when he comes across and he reads, like, the news, digs into it, whatever, looks all into it, then his attorney like brain kicks in and goes, why would this be happening? And then it's, I'm not really sure, but it could be this and this. It's probably something. And if it's probably something or might be something, then you're probably going to write about it and make some money off of it.
Right.
Like, if he would have looked at it and been, oh no, that just happens all the time, then he wouldn't have written about it.
Maybe.
That's the way I see it. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me and think that he'd write it anyways. But I see Florio as kind of as more like me when it comes to that stuff. Like, he'll write whatever he thinks can get him views, but he has to be able to
back it up,
be able to kind of explain himself, but also nobody credits and cites and all of that better than Florio, which is part of why he's made it as far and kind of gotten more of, a lot of people don't like him, but they respect kind of the work that he does. And because of that, I do see him, unlike a lot of other people, that when he is putting stuff out there, it has more value than I think what a lot of people give him credit for. I think because he's so good at his job, he gets a reputation as somebody who clickbaits because they're on top of everything.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
if I was willing to write 15 articles a day, like, I would be accused of being a clickbaiter way more often than I am, because I have to pick and choose. But I have to pick and choose between mine. So if I'm looking at 4 topics and I can only write 2 of them, I
think part of it is that he jumps on every rumor, and not every rumor comes true.
Well, yeah, but I'm willing to jump on every rumor too, as long as it comes from,
because we can't, right? Like, that's what your point is. So I'm saying it comes off as more.
Yes, it comes off that way, but I don't think that it's necessarily because of the way that he does things. I just think that he has a whole team of writers that allows them to jump on everything. But to me, it's never about the news itself, because the news itself, whether it's real or fake, or ends up happening or doesn't end up happening, the shock value of that news doesn't matter. The most shocking news of all time, a lot of times, or the most shocking rumors end up being the true ones.
Yeah.
So to me, the shock value of the rumor itself doesn't matter. It's about who the rumor is coming from. And for me, that's where I see Florio as kind of the same level as me. I won't jump on every rumor, but most of the time it depends on where that rumor comes from. And so for Florio, if it's considered a legitimate reporter, then he's going to make money off of it, which is the same thing, the same way I feel, because people in our position can't pick and choose because of that, because the shock value doesn't matter. You could leave something alone that you think is hyperbole, and then a week later it comes true. Mm-hmm. So you can't pick and choose based on that. You have to pick and choose based on where the story is coming from.
Very true. Good point. Well, we'll see what happens with Jordan Addison in his court appearance tomorrow.
Yeah, we sure will.
But that's the last topic I've got for today's long show. So
we spent an hour arguing about the Twins, but you'll have that.
Hey, I thought it was worth it.
I agree. I had fun. We
Sure.
will. We're trying to make this weekly thing. I have a Florida trip at the end of July that is going to for sure wipe out a week.
Yeah.
But I'm well aware of how critical video content is to the growth of Minnesota sports fan. So we are aiming to do this more often, and not only that, but Ted and I have been talking about starting a Twins show here eventually. I've had some discussions about doing a solo Vikings show that hasn't exactly come to fruition yet, but there are some things that I'm looking into, especially on the video side. But of course, you can keep up with all things Minnesota sports, all the latest happenings and news that you don't want to have FOMO over at minnesotasportsfan.com. Read, write, share, or don't write. Read, share. Click on an ad if you like it. That never hurt anybody. But other than that, until next time, I'm Eric Strack, Minnesota Sports Fan, minnesotasportsfan.com. That's Caleb, and we're out.